Hey, so recently Wired put out a video of Jacob Collier answering music theory questions from Twitter. Tech support, but this time it's music theory support. Which I thought was pretty cool. We're getting some love, we're getting some attention, music theorists. And I think Jacob Collier did a great job of answering most of the questions. Otherwise, I wouldn't make a video on it. But I'd like to submit my answer in addition to his to make a bit more complete answer. Because on some of these, I do have something to say. Like, there's a little point here or there that, ooh, that's an interesting tidbit that I know about that he didn't mention. That, I don't know, would just be fun to make a little video on. So, and you should watch his video before you watch mine. It's somewhere or down below. I don't know where it is. It might not be here at all. Let's hope that it is. I really only have good things to say about Jacob Collier. I didn't expect to like any of his music just because I'm not very into that kind of genre. Getting increasingly smoky in here. But actually really quite liked some of his stuff. It kind of felt that every once in a while I'll come home and I'll just smash all my keys on the piano just to feel like that sensation of relief. And some of his music did that for me. It added that kind of release and sereneness that smashing the keyboard does. So, you know, hats off to him, because even not liking the genre, I quite like some of his stuff. Another thing that I wanted to say is, you know, I wanted to address the camera that I'm using. This camera I stole from just outside the men's bathroom at Atlanta State Penitentiary, so that's why the quality's not that good, but it's all I have. So the first question that he asks, or that he answers, is that someone didn't know the difference between pitch and timbre. And I think he explained pitch very well. It's the, you know, the movement up and down of sound waves. It's, you know, you have the note, your A440, and then you move it up and down and you get different pitches. Now, timbre is what is producing the pitch. And I think his example, he put, you know, the piano versus the voice, which is a very stark timbre change. And I think the thing that I want to add, as in my answer to his answer, to make it a bit more complete, is that you don't need that instrument change to make timbres different. You can have the same note on the same instrument, but with a slight alteration that, you know, you have the same note, you have the same articulation, you have the same quality, the same consistency, the same bowing, you have the same wind, you have the same whatever you want, but there might be something about it that's just a little bit different, and that kind of undescribable quality that just makes something a little bit different, but while still remaining the same, can also be timbre, besides, you know, these incredible leaps in contrast between the timbre of a voice versus the timbre of a piano. So I'd like to submit my violin with and without a mute as changes in timbre. Here's what it sounds like without a mute. And here's what it sounds like with a mute. You can clearly hear it. I mean, there is a sure change. Like, there is something about it that's, well, it sounds muted. It sounds muted. It has a mute on it, and it sounds muted. So, mission accomplished. But that aside, there's some sort of quality in the sound that is the timbre. That's what we mean when we're talking about timbre. And there's so many different subsets of timbre too. Timbre is a really, really huge subject, despite, you know, being able to be something so small, as in the change of a mute. Or even, if you want to go even smaller, my violin, I know it so well that the change of humidity from one day to the next can completely change the way I hear my own instrument and, you know, move my fingers. It does. It's an incredible difference. You know, so I'm getting off subject, but I've been wanting to tell this story for a really long time. It's a really cool story, I promise. So I'm studying luthiering, and one of the things that surprised me most about working on my own instrument is when I started working on my instrument, the first things that I did was, you know, I cleaned it and I polished it up and I made a new bridge for it. I reheared my own bow. And when I cleaned the fretboard and put the strings back on and then went to go play on my instrument, I was completely lost, as I did one of those runs that, like, just these crazy arpeggio runs. And I missed every shift. All 3 shifts, I missed them completely. It went horribly wrong, and it was because I memorized the dirt on my fingerboard. The little crevices, the little nooks, the little imprints that my hand and my oil had made on the instrument over time had helped me control my shifting. So yeah, musicians really care about their timbre. These little minuscule bits of data, these little minuscule bits of humidity change can change your timbre and ruin your entire day. Anyway, that's kind of off topic, but it is still a cool story. And it shows not only, you know, I don't want to make it about me. It's not only my dedication, but I'm sure every single musician out there on their instrument that they practiced, you know, probably thousands of hours on. If you change one little subtle thing, they'll notice. And that's the depths that we're working. That's the variation that we're working in with music. So small, so small. The next question that he answered is, what is reharmonization? That's a really tough question. And I think to answer it, you first have to talk about what is harmonization before you can reharmonize it. So harmonization for me, and should be for everyone, I think, is when you put 2 or more pitches together to make the melody harmonized. You harmonize the melody. And that can be a completely separate entity to melody. So if I have this, let's pull a melody out of a hat. Let's go. So if I harmonize it, say, in thirds, right? I could harmonize that in sixths too. I could harmonize it in fifths. I could harmonize it in fourths. I could harmonize it in whatever I want. I could harmonize it in some oblique or contrary motion. And all of that is harmonization. So to reharmonize something is to take something that's originally harmonized by the original author of the piece of music and to do it again yourself, and to get creative within those little blind spots that he lets you have. So the original author might have only done this. He might have only done that. So maybe you do this. You know, that's a reharmonization of sorts. You can add whatever chords you want, and the beauty is to, in my opinion, the beauty of reharmonization is to put spicier chords, to put chords that don't quite fit the expectation of the original chords, but are similar enough to where your ear doesn't think that they're out of place, doesn't think that they're wrong. They're just slightly more interesting than the original chord. So maybe you might have an F chord at first. You might replace it with an F9 or a D minor chord that has a seventh in it. But yeah, that's kind of reharmonization. So it can go from, you know, and the thing that he didn't mention was it could go from to, you know, this whole you know, it has the whole range. The next question that he answered is it too late to learn a new instrument? And I've been asked this question so many times, it's ridiculous. It's a really, really stupid question. For any professional musician, ask them, is it ever too late to learn a new instrument? I'm sure they'll be sick of it, just like I'm freaking sick of it. No, it's not too late. Go. Learn the instrument. It's fine. You can always learn a new instrument. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Stop asking. Just do it. Just do it. The next question that he answered is, why does music theory sound good to our ears? And that's a hard question to answer. I think there's kind of a displacement or a misconception. Why does music theory sound good to our ears? Well, I don't think it's music theory that sounds good to our ears. Like he said, music theory sounds like parchment. That's such a good answer to that, honestly. That's such a great answer. It really does. Music theory is the way that we explain the music. It's not the music itself, and there are no governing laws to music. Like, take Newton's theory of relativity. Take Newton's theory of gravity, for example. Gravity doesn't work because Newton described it. It's not the law that makes it work. It works independently of the fact if we describe it or not. Just like music theory. The music works whether we have theory to describe it or not. Music theory is just an attempt to ground ourselves, to try to explain some of the stuff that we like and try to replicate it and try to get consistent with it and try to get good and all that good stuff, you know. It's not that music theory sounds good to our ears, it's that music sounds good to our ears, and music theory was made to try to consistently approximate what we think sounds good. The next question that he answers is, what is the saddest key? And I think I have an amazing answer to this. Others may not think that this is so groundbreaking. But
And now for something completely different.
what is the saddest word? What's the saddest language? What's the saddest? We can go through all the arts. What's the architecture in the the Greek arts? Architecture is one of them. What's the saddest building? What's the saddest word in the case of, let's say, theater or literature? What's the saddest book? What's the saddest? What are the other ones? Music. So what's the saddest scale? A key or a note, or it's a ridiculous question. For those of you that think of cuisine as an art form, which I do, I think cuisine should definitely be an art form. What's the saddest sandwich? What's the saddest dish? It's a ridiculous question. It's a dumb question. There is no saddest key. There's no saddest note. It's all up to the feelings and the experiences of one. It's all up to the sentiment that comes along with those keys, with those feelings, with those all of that. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to get at. But it's a very hard question to answer, and maybe someone has an answer to it. But if they say C minor, I'm going to. The next question that he answers is, what is the circle of fifths? And he had kind of a, almost a taken aback answer. I'd answer it very literally. I'd say the circle of fifths is a tool that we devise to arrange notes in a circle, and the notes that are closer together have the most relationship to each other. The notes that are farther apart have the least relationship to each other. Much like you would think of the periodic table, for example. The elements that are grouped together are similar. The elements that are from another group farther away are not so similar. That's really all it is. And as the name implies, the circle of fifths goes in fifths, like he very eloquently described, and I think he has perfect pitch for the way he did. It was really incredible to watch him sing the circle of fifths just like this out of thin air. I've never seen someone do that, and that was quite incredible to watch. That's all the good questions that he had to answer, so that's the end of the video. That's it.